What's going on, guys? It's NYPrepper here. In this video I want to review an awesome optic that I purchased last year, and this is a great scope that you can use for multiple rifles and different platforms, and that's the Athlon Midas BTR GEN2 1:6 power by 24mm scope. Alright, so this is an LPVO scope. It's a low power variable optic. On the lowest power, it's at 1 power, so it has no magnification on the low end. And on the high end, it goes up to 6 power, which is good for up to 200 yards, I would say. And I have this scope mounted on my .416 Ruger Dangerous Game rifle. This is a Ruger guide gun. And in case you guys have never seen a Safari cartridge before, here we have a .416 Ruger next to a .44 Magnum. You can see how the .416 Ruger just dwarfs the .44 Magnum and makes it look really small. It's a 400 grain bullet, and it travels at 2,400 feet per second, and it generates over 5,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. It has 5 times the power of that .44 Magnum. Okay. So I have this scope mounted on my Dangerous Game rifle that I plan to use for dangerous game hunting, and that I currently use for black bear hunting in New York and in the Northeast. But you can adopt this scope to pretty much any platform, AR-15, AK-47 potentially, any semi-automatic assault rifle. You can, this scope is a great choice for those types of rifles as well. I have it set up on my hunting rifle right now, on my Dangerous Game rifle, but I may get another one and put it on an AR, okay, or a semi-automatic rifle, all right, because it's a low power variable optic. So on the low end, it's basically like a red dot, but the benefit over a red dot is that with this scope, I can zoom up to 6 power and I can get clear, accurate shots out to 200 yards, maybe even 300 yards, okay, depending on how good of a rest I have and how steady I can hold my gun. But I mean, with a 6 power scope, you could even go out to 300 yards, depending on how accurate you want to be. But this scope is really rugged. The MSRP right now is $660, okay? So expect to pay around, $550 to $650 for this scope new. I think I bought mine for around $580 last year, but the prices have been going up because of the pandemic. So MSRP is around $660. So it's a mid-range scope. It's not a Vortex Razor or any of those types of scopes, but it's not a very cheap scope. Okay, so it's a mid-range scope, and I think for most people, most people are not going to spend more than $1,000 on a scope that they actually plan to use. Like in my situation, this rifle gets carried a lot. When I go bear hunting, I carry this thing a lot. And if I have a $2,000 scope, I'm going to be afraid to, trek through dense brush and lay this rifle down on rocks and stuff like that, because I'm going to be paranoid that I'm going to break the scope. But, Athlon, it has they have a lifetime warranty, okay? So this scope right here, if I break it, they'll replace it free of charge for the life of the scope, all right? As long as I don't even need a receipt, okay? They have a no receipt warranty policy, so if your scope breaks, they'll replace it for you, or they'll try to fix it, okay? If it's not fixable, they'll just get you a new one, and you don't need a receipt, you don't need to register, they'll just replace it for you. And Athlon is a new company to the scope market. They've just been coming out the last couple of years with scopes, and I have 2 of their scopes. I have this one, the Midas BTR GEN2, and then I also have a Midas HMR on my 300 Win Mag, and I'll do a review on that one. And that's also a mid-range optic in terms of price and quality and features. It's all mid-range optic like this one. And that one works extremely well on my 300 Win Mag. I've never had any tracking issues. I never had any issues related to recoil. It's extremely, I'm able to hit 1/4 inch groups at 200 yards with my 300 Win Mag with that scope. But I'll do a review on that scope separately. So if you guys are looking for a reasonably priced scope for your hunting rifle, your SHTF rifle, your Minuteman rifle, your home defense weapons, this Athlon 1 to 6 power scope, the Midas BTR GEN2, is highly recommended by me. I've had it on this 416 Ruger as long as I've owned it, and I've shot probably 200 rounds through this 416 Ruger already with this scope, and I never had any issues with the tracking, with you know, anything breaking on the scope. All right, it's a very rugged scope. It can handle recoil, and guys, if I can shoot, you know, hundreds of rounds through my 416 Ruger Safari rifle with this scope, I'm sure it can handle your 223 or 308 or whatever you plan to mount this on. All right, this is about as bad as recoil gets, unless you step up to like a 50 cal. All right, the recoil on this rifle is immense, and I'll actually attach a video of the recoil right now so you can see the recoil of this rifle and you can see the scope in action. Alright guys, so you can see that this rifle recoils pretty severely, and with all that recoil, I never had any problems with this scope whatsoever. Never had any tracking problems, never had any zeroing problems, never had any parts come loose or anything like that. And I'll attach some pictures right now. I'll show you guys how accurate this scope is and what kind of groups I was getting with this 416 Ruger. I was getting half MOA groups at 100 yards. So as you can see, the scope is extremely accurate. You can see how tight my groups were in the pictures at 100 yards, and you can also see how this scope can handle the recoil. Okay, now I want to just go through some of the specs of this scope. Okay, but for $600, I highly recommend this scope. I think this is a great scope for a hunting rifle, whether it's a dangerous game rifle like I have here. Okay, this is an excellent choice for a dangerous game rifle, and the reason why I actually selected this scope for my dangerous game rifle is because of the reticle. Okay, it has a really nice reticle. It also has a very nice exit pupil, and the exit pupil is very important for dangerous game rifles and low power optics, because if you don't have a big enough exit pupil, it's going to be hard for you to find the, be able to center the reticle inside of your scope. All right, if the exit pupil is small, it's going to be hard for you to find that exact sweet spot where your eye is going to be aligned through the scope, so you can get a nice clear sight picture and be able to see the entire field of view. Okay, so the exit pupil is important, and a lot of these low power variable optics have very small exit pupils, and I'm not going to name companies, but you have to really pay attention to the details with anything you do, especially when you're talking about something that you plan to use for dangerous game where your life is in danger, or for a home security, property security, hunting, or SHTF Minuteman type rifle. You want to make sure you're paying attention to the details, and exit pupil is one of those things you want to pay attention to. You want to have a good exit pupil, and I'll share the numbers with you in a second here, what the numbers are specifically, but it has a good exit pupil, so I can quickly throw the rifle up in a low power setting, like a 2 power or 1 power. I can throw it up to my shoulder and get a good quick snapshot off, if I want to. If, let's say, it's a situation where I have a charging bear or a charging buffalo or something, and I need to do a quick snapshot at 50 yards or less, I don't want to have to be fumbling around with the scope to try to find the proper alignment for my eye to get the proper exit pupil so I can get a good sight picture. I want to put that scope up and be able to clearly see through the scope right away, and that's where the exit pupil is very important, as well as the glass quality and a lot of other things. Now, another thing that attracted me to this scope is the reticle. Okay, it has a hash mark reticle. It uses, this particular model is a MOA reticle, which I'll show you in a second. It's a second focal plane illuminated MOA reticle, so it has 2 MOA hash marks that go out to 30 MOA on all sides of the crosshair. Okay, so you can use that for adjusting your bullet drop and for windage. If the wind is blowing your bullet around, you can use those hash marks to make proper holdovers in the field without having to adjust the turrets. Okay, but these also have tactical turrets underneath those. The windage and elevation knobs are actually tactical turrets. It's just that they're covered. They have caps. All right, so but once you take those caps off, it's basically a tactical turret. All right, but I like the fact that there's caps on it. And that's another reason why I got this scope over, let's say, the Burris scopes or some of the other LPVOs, which are marketed more towards the tactical market. This scope right here, I could use in either a tactical role or in a hunting role, and it looks good on traditional hunting rifles like you see here. All right, this scope looks good on this rifle. If I had like a tactical style scope on here, it would look a little funny. With this Ruger guide gun, it would look kind of strange. So it has a good aesthetics, with those scope cap, not scope caps, with the turret caps. It makes it look good. Okay, but it does have a fully adjustable turret for windage and elevation that returns to 0, and I've tested it. Works very well. So I want to just show you a little more of a close-up of this scope. Okay, and get more into the numbers here, the specific numbers, and show you the reticle. I'm going to show you guys the reticle. I'll also show you what kind of caps that I have on this thing and what size of caps you want to get for it. All right, but I think this is a great scope for the money. It's not cheap, but it's not super expensive, but it's very rugged. It's very accurate. The glass quality is very good. Okay, the glass is extremely clear, and I'll try to do my best to get some pictures of the glass quality, or try to get a video of it outside. I'm going to try to attach some pictures of the glass so you guys can see how good the glass is on this $600 scope. All right, it's very, very clear. So later on in this video, I'm going to show you guys some photos and video of how clear the glass is on this scope. It's extremely clear, so stay tuned for those photos. The glass quality is excellent. The exit pupil is great. It's illuminated. It has hash marks. It has tactical turrets that are concealed. It's just a great overall scope that you can use for short to medium range applications, whether it's a dangerous game rifle, a deer hunting rifle in the big woods over here in upstate New York, where you have closer shots. Something like this is great for whitetail deer. You can put this on your favorite 30-06 or your favorite 270, and this is a great scope for a woods gun, okay, because you can go all the way down to 1 power, but if you want to zoom up and pick a good shooting lane through some brush, if you got a longer shot at a deer, let's say 100 yards away, and you got to really zoom in to pick a little shooting lane through the twigs, okay, you can zoom up to 6 power. Alright guys, so I'm going to go through some of the specs on this scope here. It's a 1 to 6 power scope. It has a 24mm objective lens. This particular reticle is the ATSR16 second focal plane illuminated MOA reticle. Alright, it's a glass etched reticle. It has an anodized matte finish. It has a multi-coated lens, and it also has a special extra protective coating for the lenses. The tube is made out of 6061 aluminum. The tube diameter is 30mm, okay, so you can use 30mm scope rings, which is what I have here. The exit pupil, and this is the important thing that I was talking about, the exit pupil here on this scope is 12.5 to 4mm, okay, so 12.5 is on the low end, so if you dial this scope down to 1 power, it has a 12.5mm exit pupil, and then if you zoom up to 6 power, it has a 4mm exit pupil, so it's I would say it's above average for the exit pupil size. There are other low power variable optics that have a bigger exit pupil. In particular, Burris has some of their scopes that have like a 20mm exit pupil, all right, but I think it's only like one of their LPVOs, and the rest of them are actually less than this. But so it's above average. It's not anything crazy like the Burris, but it's above average, okay? And the other extra features on this scope make it worth it, even though it doesn't have the same exit pupil as some of the Burris LPVOs. This has a better reticle, and it has better features in it, and so it's worth it, even though the exit pupil is a little smaller. The eye relief is really good. It's 3.8 inches, okay, and that's another thing I love about Athlon scopes, is that their eye relief is almost 4 inches, which is really, really good. I like to have a long eye relief. I don't like to be right next to a scope, I like to have at least 3.5 inches of eye relief, so this way I don't have to crowd the scope. And that's important, especially for high recoiling rifles like this 416 Ruger or my 300 Win Mag, or even if you have a 30-06 or a 270, you're going to get a pretty decent amount of kick with those deer hunting rifles. And so this Athlon has a nice long eye relief, so you don't have to worry about getting hit in the face with the scope and getting scope bite, okay? Which is not fun, and I've had it happen a few times. It definitely isn't fun. So the long eye relief is a big plus in my opinion. If you're going to use this on a heavier recoiling rifle, and even if it's not a heavier recoiling rifle, it's nice to have that longer eye relief because it's a little bit more comfortable to shoot. You don't have to, jam your face right into the scope in order to get a good cheek weld. All right, so that's a very big plus. It has a very good field of view, and so it has a 17.6 foot field of view on 6 power at 100 yards, and on 1 power it has a 108 foot field of view at 100 yards. Okay, so that's a pretty generous field of view. The click value on the turrets are 0.25 MOA, so it has a nice fine adjustment on the turrets. And the adjustment range per rotation of the turret is 30 MOA. The total elevation adjustment is 150 MOA, guys. That is absolutely very, very generous. And you probably don't even need that on this scope, but that's as much as a lot of sniper scopes and long-range scopes. But, you know, that's very good that they put that in there, although I don't think you're going to really ever use that with a 6-power scope. But nonetheless, it's there, and that just tells you the quality of Athlon and how much thought they put into this scope when they were designing it. So 150 MOA elevation adjustment, 150 MOA windage adjustment. It has capped turrets, which I mentioned. I like that because it gives it a better look, okay, and it protects the turrets. All right, I don't like those exposed tactical turrets. I think that, you know, they give it that tactical look, and it makes it not look good if you put it on another rifle that's not tactical. Okay, so this scope will look good on any kind of rifle because it doesn't have that tactical look to it. And I know for some people that doesn't matter. Looks don't really matter for a lot of people, but for me, you know, I'm a traditionalist, and especially when it comes to hunting rifles, I like traditions. And I like things to look a certain way. I don't like to have, you know, a tactical looking scope on a deer hunting rifle. It just feels weird to me. So the parallax adjustment is fixed. Okay, so there's no parallax adjustment, which is common with LPVOs. It has argon gas inside of it. It's 10.6 inches long. And it weighs 18 ounces, all right? So it's a good lightweight scope. It's only 18 ounces, guys. That's 1 pound. That's very light, but it's very robust, okay? Don't let the weight fool you. 18 ounces is light, but it's very robust. When you hold this scope in your hands, you can feel how solid it is, all right? So those are some of the specs. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you some of the features on this scope and give you a look around of the scope itself. So stand by. So the first thing I want to show you guys is the turrets here. I'm going to remove the caps so you guys can see what the turrets look like, and I'll demonstrate the turrets so you can hear them clicking. Okay. Alright, so that's what the turrets look like. Alright, let me show you up close a little bit better so you can see. Okay, so you have one click is 1/4 MOA on elevation and windage, all right, and it has a resettable 0 here. Okay, so what you do is there's a coin screw here. It's a coin screw, so you put a coin in there, you loosen that screw, and you can change the dial to reset your 0. So it has a resettable 0, and I'll demonstrate the click so you can hear. It's very tactile. So let me demonstrate that for you. All right, let me see if you guys can hear that. All right, so resettable 0 on both of these caps. Very tactile, okay. Sounds very, very good, very tactile. All right, and those are the turrets up close. It has this nice texture here, so you can grip the turret nicely with your bare hands or even with gloves. It has this nice knurled texture, so you can grip it easily. Another thing that I like about these turrets on the Athlon scopes is all of their turrets are flat, like a pancake, which is a nice little benefit because if you're trying to level this scope when you're mounting it, you can drop one of the bubble levels on top of the turret cap here, or I'm not the turret cap, the turret, and that'll help you to level the scope much easier, especially if you don't have a leveling kit. All right, so that's a nice little benefit. And turning the scope around, just to give you guys kind of a look through here. So these are my Vortex scope caps, but this is the up close of the scope here. Okay, and there's the Athlon logo. And on this side of the scope, you have your illumination knob. And what's nice about this illumination knob, and this is another big plus to Athlon, and I give them big credit for this, is they put 0 in between each illumination setting. And why is that good? Well, let's say you want to shut your illumination setting off, but you don't want to have to dial it all the way back to 1 or 0, right? Let's say you're on setting number 4. A lot of illuminated scopes, you have to crank it all the way down to shut it off, okay, until you get to the off position. But with the Athlon, what's nice about it is you could be on, let's say, setting number 5, and if you want to turn it off, you just go back to 0, either down or up, whatever you want to do. All right, as you can see, the 0 between each setting here, okay? Now, another area where this is good is you can actually, what I do is I put it on the 0 between the lowest setting and the highest setting. And so what that allows me to do is, if it's daylight out and it's bright and very sunny and I need to get some illumination, let's say I'm hunting black bear and I have black crosshairs and I want to get some good contrast on the target, whether it's a black bear or even just a paper target, or if I'm in the woods and it's dark in the woods, you know, dark colors everywhere, and I can't really see the crosshairs well, I can crank this up to number 6 on the highest power, okay, and that's going to give me illumination during the day. And then when evening comes and it starts to get dusk out, let's say I'm hunting bear, starts getting darker, I can crank it to 1, and now I have enough illumination for the evening time, all right? Because really all you need for the evening time is very little illumination. You don't need too much, you just need a little bit. And then during the day, you need very bright illumination if it's very sunny out. So I leave it on the 0 in between the highest and the lowest setting, okay? And so this is what the scope looks like generally. It's a very good looking scope. Here you have your focus knob, okay, Midas BTR GEN2. All right, here you can focus your scope, okay. Let me get this other cap off so you guys could see it without the cap. All right, so that's what it looks like without the caps, all right? And you can see they have the model etched onto the outside, Midas BTR GEN2, 1:6 by 24. Very good looking scope. It's just very good looking, okay? Absolutely love the way this scope looks on my rifle here. And you know, this illumination knob is also very tactile. When you change it, you can clearly feel when you're changing the settings, you can feel when it clicks. It's not mushy or anything like that. It's solid. All right, so it's really nice. All this is all waterproof, obviously. You also have your battery compartment here. There's a screw. This whole top here comes off where the Athlon logo is. You unscrew this, and there's a little cap, and then you put your 2032 coin cell in there, okay? But it's just a beautiful scope. I absolutely love it. And here's the adjustment knob for your zoom, okay, for your magnification. And it's just a very simple, they have a little white little arrow here, and then you have your numbers, and you just, you know, old-fashioned, you just align the number with the arrow. Okay, there's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And what I like about it is it's very nicely knurled here, so you can grip this easily, okay? If your hands are wet, or, you know, it's snowing outside, or it's raining, or you have gloves on, it's cold, you can really feel that knurling digging into your skin, and you can get a good positive purchase on this knob, which is really important in stressful situations, like if, let's say, you're hunting, and let's say I'm hunting up close and I have my scope set at 2 power, and then all of a sudden a deer pops out at 150 yards or whatever I'm hunting, and I need to quickly crank it up to, let's say, 4 or 5 power. All right, I can quickly do that, and I don't have to worry about my hands slipping or anything if my hands are wet or something like that. So that's very important. You want to have good knurling on your adjustment knob here. So you get good knurling here. You got this nice little bump that sticks out. I don't know what they call that. I don't know what the word for that is, but you got this little bump here on the top, and what that does, if you guys can see from this angle here, this bump here, this gives you like a reference point. So when you're grabbing the adjustment knob, you know, you can grab that little bump and twist it, you know. And also, if it's slippery, if your hands are slippery, or if the surface of the scope is slippery from snow or rain or something, this little bump here will always give you something to grab onto and for leverage. Okay, it gives you nice leverage. You can see it sticks out probably a good, I would say, 3/8 of an inch. All right, it's pretty high, so you get good leverage with that little bump there. Okay, and it's a good quick reference point. So if you need to make that quick adjustment, like I was saying, if you're in the field and a shot presents itself and you have to either zoom up or zoom down, you know, let's say you have it zoomed up to 4 power and you want to zoom it down quickly. Okay, this gives you a nice reference point, or, you know, an area, an indexing point is the right word, not reference point, but indexing. All right, you can index this, you can feel it, and it gives you good leverage. Okay, so that's a really nice feature there. All right, guys, so I'm going to show you how you return this thing to 0 now. So, you know, I was playing with the turrets to show you guys how they work. So now we're going to return it to 0. All we're going to do is we're just going to dial down. We're going to dial back to 0. Okay, that's where we were right there. You see 0 on the elevation knob, and then on the windage knob, we're going to also dial it back to 0. And I don't want to make a mistake here, because then it's going to be very costly for me to re-zero it, because safari rifle ammunition is not cheap. All right, so you see that the 0 is aligned with the triangle here. All right, and that means we're back onto 0. So you can make in the field adjustments with the turrets here if you like, or you can just hold over with the reticle. The reticle has 2 MOA hash marks. All right, so I'm going to show you guys the reticle now, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so that's what the reticle looks like, and I want to show you the illumination knobs. I'm going to go from the lowest setting, that's number 1, there's number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then back down to 1. Alright, so what I do, like I said, is I keep this in between 1 and 6, so if I'm hunting during the day and it's bright outside and I need some good contrast on my target, I can put it up to 6, okay? Or I can go down to 1 if it's evening time and I'm about to head out of the woods. I can put it on 1 and it'll give me just enough illumination where it's not too much and it's not overwhelming. All right, so there's the reticle. If you notice, the reticle, it has a round circle, and I like that round circle because that helps you acquire targets at close range very quickly, which is one of the things that I liked about the scope, is that round circle. You know, if you're talking about a dangerous game rifle or a tactical rifle, that big circle in the middle is really good for close range snap shooting. You know, if let's say you have a charging bear at 50 yards or less, or a, you know, a situation, a tactical situation at 25 yards or less, let's say you're clearing rooms or something like that, that big round circle, it kind of reminds me of an EOTech. You know, you can throw your rifle up quickly and you just focus on that circle. You put that circle where you want the bullet to go, and you know, you don't have to worry about anything, you know. It's just very quick and accurate. And so, you know, close range, that big circle is just really nice, especially on a dangerous game rifle like this one. All right, it has 2 MOA hash marks. If you see, there's little hash marks, and those are 2 MOA hash marks, and they go up to 30 MOA. All right, let me see if I can align this better. Sorry guys, there we go. You see all the little hash marks there? Okay, they're 2 MOA hash marks, but I'm gonna go outside and get you guys some good photos of the clarity of the optics. All right guys, so I got the scope outside and I wanna just show you guys how clear the glass is during the daytime. I'm gonna zoom in on some objects here. So we're gonna be aiming in this direction, and that pine tree down there that I'm pointing to is about 75 yards away, and behind the pine tree, those hardwoods back there, those hardwoods are about 200 yards. All right, so we're gonna zoom in on those hardwoods, and I'll show you guys how clear the glass is on this Athlon scope here. It's really good glass. So let me just show you guys. So right now we're at 1 power. Okay, there's no magnification whatsoever. And I'm just gonna zoom in, okay, all the way up. It's a little bit tough to do while holding a camera, okay. All right, so that's 6 power right now. You can see how clear the glass is. Very clear glass. It's excellent glass. Gathers a lot of light, good field of view. No blurriness or anything. It's very crisp. All right, so you definitely get some good glass with this Athlon here. And I'm just gonna zoom it back out to 1 power now. Okay, so you guys can see what it's like on 1 power. Okay, that's 1 power right now. I'm gonna zoom up again all the way to 6 power. Okay. There's 6 power. Again, sorry for the camera. It's not easy to do this, you know, holding the camera with one hand and keeping the rifle steady while I'm zooming in and out. But as you can see, the glass is really, really crisp on this scope here. So it's a very good scope. I highly recommend it. All right, definitely you want to check this scope out. It's awesome. Look at that glass, guys. It's just crystal clear. I love that round reticle there in the center. It's good for up close situations. It's just awesome. You know, very good scope. So check it out. All right, guys. So I just wanted to show you the scope caps that I recommend for this scope. These are the Vortex Defender scope caps, and I'll show you guys the sizes that you need. So the objective side, you're going to need size 024, and the eyepiece side, you're going to need size E10. Okay, so take a screenshot of these sizes, and this way you know what kind of scope caps you need. And this fits perfectly on this scope here. Okay, and there's a couple things about these scope caps that I like. Number one is you can have, when you flip it open, it flips open immediately. So what you do is it has these little pieces of plastic that come off the edge here on either side. Okay, so if you're, let's say for example on the eyepiece side, okay, if you're on the eyepiece side, all you have to do is just flip this like that, and it just flips all the way open. All right, and then it can also stay open straight, or it can stay open at like a 45 degree, or you can lock it all the way down. Okay, and I usually lock it all the way down. All right, so these are really good caps. They fit over the scope really well, which I'll show you guys right now how well they fit over the scope here, and I'll demonstrate how they work. Okay, so if let's say you're in a situation where you're hunting and you have, you know, some kind of game animal pop out. All right, you have your piece of plastic here, and then you have your piece of plastic here, and all you got to do is just reach around, and with one hand you just pop this side open, and then with your other hand you pop that open. All right, and actually I have it set up on this one where if I cycle the bolt, cycling the bolt will actually open it. All right, because the bolt will actually catch on this plastic piece. All right, so that's a really nice feature. You don't want to go cheap on something like a serious hunting rifle, like a dangerous game rifle. You want quality, so that's why I spent more money on these caps. But those are the caps you're going to need for this rifle.